First of all, thanks. Some of you guys that stopped by the table. I know there's a lot of excitement around this. So what I'm going to cover today is a little bit of the software-defined data center story from VMware, but for the most part, it's going to be what's new, the product updates with version 6. How many of you guys today are VMware customers, users? Perfect. Okay, so didn't want to bore you with anything we probably already know, so we're going to stick to what's new with regards to the products. So my background, I actually came from one of CCB's competitors, but I was VMware focused. I've been on the line for 8 years, so if you guys have questions or something I don't cover, feel free to ask. I'm based in Chicago, so first of all, what the heck was that last night? Crazy. Yeah, I was like, man, I gotta go up there tomorrow too. So, anyway, so starting with the VMware story, obviously, if you guys are VMware customers, you virtualize your servers. vSphere is kind of the thing of the past as far as what's new from VMware. So when we talk about the software-defined data center, what we're talking about is virtualizing the rest of the data center. So VMware kind of defines this as expanding virtual compute to all applications, virtualizing the network, transforming storage, and then of course the management tools. How many of you guys have heard of NSX at all? Okay, so NSX is VMware's network virtualization product. I'm not going to talk about it today. It's a new release, but it's also by VMware's estimates, a six-figure investment from a cost perspective. So, the story here is basically virtualized network, virtualized storage, virtualized servers. VMware is telling a very similar story with regards to the ease of virtualization, but the management and automation piece is also something that we're focused on in 2015. So, IT outcomes. What we're going to talk about today, basically, I'm not going to read through that slide, but these are the IT outcomes that can be achieved by doing software-defined and virtualization. As I go through the presentation, I'm not going to refer back to this. At the end, we'll get back to this. Like I said, all I want to do is give you guys product updates. So these are some of the new products that came out this year and how they kind of fit into VMware's framework of the software-defined data center. I'm not going to touch on vCloud Suite or integrated OpenStack, but if you guys have more questions on that, feel free to follow up with me at the end. I'm also not going to talk about NSX. I already said that. So what's new in vSphere 6? So for you guys that are using vSphere, and it seems like that's the majority of you, the focus of the vSphere 6, and if you've been a long-time VMware person, you know that this is the first major release in about 2-3 years. So VMware really listened to your feedback and customer feedback, and added in a lot of things that I think were somewhat missing from the start. So the theme behind vSphere 6 is virtualize, scale up, and scale out. So what does that mean? That means VMware wants you to virtualize everything. But in reality, they're saying if you have, if you want to build monster VMs, I know that's a term they've been throwing around for years as well. But if you want to build monster VMs, you have that capability now. So redefine availability. So there's a number of features that I'm going to go over that now help you guys as vSphere customers achieve even higher levels of availability than was possible with previous versions. And then simplify the data center. That's a funny marketing term for helping you guys manage your vSphere environments better. So this is the scale up, scale out slide. Basically, they're saying when you want to virtualize SQL or an Oracle database, you got to build monster VMs. And in the past, although I've never ever run across a customer that was pushing those maximums, VMware felt the need to increase the maximums once again. So you can see here, everything as far as scale is either 2 times or 1.5 times the size that it was in previous version. This is another cool feature that I don't know, maybe you guys have heard about or not, but VMware finally took that feedback about 3D applications running slow or graphics intensive applications running slow in virtualized environments. They teamed up with NVIDIA, and so you now have the capability to build in vGPUs, and they use the native NVIDIA drivers. I'll touch on this again when I talk about Horizon and the VDI solution, where I think that kind of plays a little bit more. But just so you guys know, this is an available feature. A lot of these features I'm going to talk about are Enterprise Plus licenses. So how many of you guys have Enterprise Plus? Okay, 1.
Almost.
So reason to upgrade, right? Yeah, so, and I'll mention that just so I'm not giving you guys kind of false hope on what's going to be available when you upgrade to version 6. Instant Clone, this one is available across all versions. It's basically just an improvement on the original cloning technology. And again, it's talking about scale, so you can do 10 times more. They're claiming, although again, I've never seen this in the field, but that you can deploy thousands of virtual desktops in minutes. I haven't seen that, thousands. I haven't seen it to that scale, but again, the theme here is you have that ability if you wanted to. So availability, long distance vMotion. This is something that a lot of customers have asked for a long time. Again, this is available across all versions, I think with the exception of Essentials. But long distance vMotion, you could do it before. I've heard of people who figured out ways to do it. It was a little slow, a little kludgy, and in general, wasn't the best performing. So VMware built into the code for vSphere 6 the long distance vMotion capability, so now you have cross-continental capability for vMotion. And again, I'm assuming all you guys know these features, the old features, so vMotion, everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? Okay, cool. Cross vSwitch vMotion. So in the past, as you were building out your virtual environment, you had to make a decision on did you want standard switches or did you want distributed switches? And part of that decision sometimes involved the ability to vMotion, having to change IP addresses. So VMware built that into this version. The one thing that I will say is it still does not do, which one? Distributed to standard. So that's the one way that you still can't do vMotion. Fault tolerance for multiple processor VMs. So again, the fault tolerance feature was great, and a lot of customers adopted it. How many of you guys use fault tolerance in your environment? Yeah, okay. So fault tolerance, one of its limitations was in the past it was a 1 vCPU VM only limitation. So basically that meant that if you had a larger application that you virtualized, you couldn't protect it with fault tolerance. So again, looking at scale, VMware went back and they looked at it, and now it goes up to 4 vCPUs VMs for fault tolerance. Content library. So the content library is in your environments where you have VM templates, OVFs, and all kinds of different files that the users need to access. A lot of times that can get messy depending on the size of your environment. So VMware created a central kind of storage area or central repository for all those files to reside, where all the users can access them and nobody's looking for specific file names and templates and whatnot. The web client, there's not a whole lot on this. The one thing that I do mention when I talk about the web client, have any of you guys seen the new web client, right? And I get a lot of feedback that it's much easier to use, it's a better interface. I've heard that, and that's really what VMware was going for. So they wanted it to be easier to use, they wanted a better performing web client. The other note that I always mention here is that I don't know when, but I was told that the native client will go end of life, or they'll stop supporting it sometime this year. So they're kind of forcing your hand to go to the web client for your access. So real quick, I wanted to touch on vSphere with operations management. How many of you guys are using that today? Anybody? No? So, like I said, I've been on VMware Live for 8 years. To me, this is kind of the coolest product that's come out since virtualization started. And it's a funny story. So basically, the guys who created this was a VMware acquisition. They went to VMworld a few years ago, and they kept asking everybody, "Where's the vCenter guys? Where's your vCenter experts?" They found the vCenter experts, and they told them that it was crap. And everybody was like, "What?" And they took a look at what they had, and basically it's taking all the data that vCenter collects today, and just making it more easy to not only view, but make analysis, run reports. But it also gives you the ability to solve problems before they happen, instead of being reactive. It also has a built-in feature that helps you manage capacity and finds VMs that aren't being used or waste. So it's waste reduction. It also picks up on your habits in your environment. So it's not going to give you an alert for something, because you run a backup every Friday, and one of the VMs is getting hammered. It learns what your environment does. So it gives you up-to-date, customized information that you're then able to go in and execute in vCenter. So storage, the story here is really vSAN, virtual SAN. And how many of you guys have used virtual SAN? Anybody? No? Okay. How many of you guys use some other kind of virtual storage solution? Anybody? Okay. So, when I talk about vSAN, I was around for the virtual storage appliance days when VMware's first crack at virtualized storage. And, I can say that was crap. So they really went back to the drawing board and came up with a great product in vSAN. And I say that from not because I'm a VMware evangelist, but technology-wise, I was willing to admit back then that the storage appliance was terrible. But in this version, again, they've increased the ability to do those larger applications and databases and stuff like that. The other thing that they did with storage was virtual volumes. So this is also new to vSphere 6. And virtual volumes is basically saying, okay, we get it, you don't want to virtualize your storage, you already have an array. We're going to give you a better way to manage your virtual environment within that existing physical storage array. And so, so they got together with all these storage vendors. I'm sure you guys see some folks up here that you recognize, and they came up with easy APIs. So Virtual Volumes works with all of these, and basically just provides better LUN management. It allows you to create virtual volumes instead of having to ask for a specific LUN. So in the past, if there was in a larger organization, ideally there would be a vSphere administrator and a storage administrator. You'd create that. You'd ask the storage administrator to create your LUNs for your VM or your virtual environment, and then he'd create it. And then if there was an instance where you ran out of capacity on that particular LUN, but you had other LUNs available, you'd have to go back to the storage administrator and completely reconfigure the storage. So that's really where this use case comes into play, is just managing your existing storage better for your VMware environment. Again, VMware kind of went big with this as far as scale. So they did add the capability for all flash arrays, which was a big ask. That was a huge ask actually from the user community, because everybody wanted to go with all flash arrays and we didn't support it. So you can do that now. All flash hosts, and we didn't support it. You did need at least one SSD, but you couldn't have more than two. Again, they've increased the scale, so you can go up to 64 nodes in a cluster. Again, kind of overkill to me. I've never seen a use case where somebody had to go that big or wanted to go that big. I mean, 64 physical servers as your storage target, that's not really best practice in my opinion, but they did it. So if you wanted to go that big, you could. And there's also some performance benefits with vSAN 7 or 6 as well. Again, the snapshotting and clone, same thing what I mentioned with instant clone. You know, they've upgraded it to the point where you can really manage that better, as well as do it at scale. And then rack awareness, I don't really talk about that, but that's a new feature of vSphere 6 as well. So basically giving the virtual SAN the ability to know that if it's in a rack that fails, it can move to a different rack. So again, the all flash, it's really, I actually broke that out in a separate slide because it is something that VMware feels is a game changer as far as virtual SAN. So basically, you know, if you have an all flash host, you're going to see 10 times performance, 10 times faster use speeds and IOPS. So here's a look at the maximums again. Again, VMware kind of overkilled it on this one, but you know, if you had the need to scale to this point, and you were going to do it on a virtual storage infrastructure, you can do that now with vSAN 6. So really, the story behind storage and that piece of the software-defined data center is that you know, with virtual SAN and virtual volumes, regardless of if you're going to go host-based storage or you're going to go a mix of host-based storage and array-based storage, you now have a common platform from which you can manage it within the VMware environment. So, you know, going kind of back to the storage piece of the software-defined data center, you know, VMware has a very strong story here. So, again, I'm kind of blowing through all these pretty quick. So, if you want, come up at the end. We can have a call another time. We can talk later today. I can provide demos for you if you'd like. Around different products that I mentioned or features that I mentioned. I know I'm kind of going a million miles an hour here. So vCloud Air, how many of you guys are doing some sort of public cloud, AWS, Azure, anything? Okay, a little bit, or looking into it probably, maybe a little bit. So VMware's public cloud offering is called vCloud Air. And obviously it's built on a VMware infrastructure. They don't even tell guys like me what the hardware is. That's usually the first question that people ask. But their stance is, if it works, why do you care? So, you know, you can make some assumptions. It's probably Cisco networking gear, EMC storage, right? But the vCloud Air product currently is offered in 8 data centers dispersed all around the U.S. I actually forgot to put that slide in. It shows where the specific locations are. Again, I can provide that information to you. And it comes in these 3 forms. There's also a desktop as a service product that I'm not going to mention. But the dedicated cloud, where you have specific dedicated resources for your environment. The virtual private cloud, where it's a multi-tenant situation, and very similar to AWS. And vCloud Air disaster recovery. Out of the 3 of these, I think the low-hanging fruit from a VMware perspective, and you know, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but is the disaster recovery piece. Because you know, a lot of times when you're looking at a public cloud option, you're not looking to necessarily run a lot of production in the cloud, but as a DR piece, you know, that's definitely something that's a little bit easier to swallow. And so, from a VMware perspective, again, this is, you know, all you guys are most of you guys are VMware guys. So, you know, this is probably the best option. I actually came from a cloud company a couple of years ago, and we were all VMware backend, and there were still a lot of problems with moving workloads from a VMware environment, you know, at a customer site into our environment. Not only with all of these services, VMware provides the same support number, and you can actually call their support line and they'll help you walk you through that migration process. which is kind of unique as well. And that's just built into the service. All of these base resources that are listed here, obviously, like any other cloud provider, you can add on at any time or take away. It is a subscription base, and they're all 1 month, 3 month, 12 month, 24, 36 months. So a little bit more about the DR solution, since I think that's really a good story. Basically, you're getting warm standby capacity in their data center. In addition to that, you can use this in conjunction with Site Recovery Manager, or not at all. You can use whatever kind of replication tool you want to use. So you can use vSphere replication. That's the recommended best practice, or you can use any other third-party replication tool that you might have. You also get tests built into it. So if you wanted to run a test on a complete failover, you can do that. They'll give you they'll stand up an environment for you for 7 days. You get 2 tests per year as part of the subscription, but you can always pay to have another one or more multiples if you need. In the event of an actual failure, when you fail over, they give you 30 days. And that can be extended. You just have to work with the VMware tech support team. So some of the new features, because they did launch this product probably mid last year, and did a revision in March of this year. Multiple point in time recovery is one of the bigger ones. And so you can go anywhere from 15 minutes to 24 hours. So, again, kind of addressing the recovery time objective. And then the failback and failover, actually it's not even listed here, but you can do failback and failover now using vSphere replication, which you couldn't do in the original launch. There's also a bunch of other plugin tools that you can add to this. So derealize automation. There's all kinds of stuff that you can integrate from your environment into this cloud environment. So real quick on Horizon 6. How many of you guys use Horizon or View, some version? Cool, couple of you. The Horizon family products is the VDI solution. I believe the marketing people are now referring it to the mobility as the mobility solution because it does also now fully integrate with AirWatch. The 3 pieces of the Horizon product are Horizon View, which is the actual virtualizing of desktops, Horizon Mirage, which is image management, patch management, and from a centralized management console, and the Horizon Workspace, which I like to kind of refer to as the iTunes store for VMware. Some Horizon 6 use cases: desktop management, business continuity, direct DR, security and compliance, and anywhere access. I mean, in reality, the anywhere access piece is probably what's driving most of the sales that I'm involved in. As proliferation of devices gets more and more robust, and IT wants control, and end users want freedom. So VMware always had that IT control and user freedom story to tell. And really with the new release and integrating AirWatch, adding in that mobile device management capability for multiple devices across any platform, it really kind of delivers on that now. So with regards to Horizon Workspace, the iTunes store, what they did in this version, in version 6 of this release, is you're now able to bring in remote desktop applications, Citrix XenApp applications, VMware VNapp applications, cloud apps, whatever you want, and they're all in this heads-up display, all based in the data center, controlled by IT, but available in a catalog type fashion, centralized catalog type fashion to the end user. And all of this is accessed over the web. I will be doing a demo at the table later of this on my iPad if you guys want to come by and see it. That's kind of cool. So the mobility story for VMware, really started way beyond this with Workstation, but over the course of the last year, They've added the hosted apps and RDS desktops. They've added printing, scanning, smart cards, USB, VPN, all kinds of different USB storage devices. And then the Chromebook access is something new. How many of you guys are standardized on Chromebooks? Right? Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. But I think the need there came from the education market. So a lot of schools are doing the Chromebooks, and this is a great tool. It's a great story. There's a great story around how this works in schools. Do any of you guys school district schools? Yep. Okay, cool. Are you guys standardized on devices yet?
We have a few. We have like 30 schools. So
gotcha.
They're all over the place.
Cool. Well, it's something to think about, right?
I like it though.
Yeah. Again, I mentioned this before. You see, some of these big names down there as far as applications, and with this launch, and again, it was something that I heard from time to time, but you can do those graphics intensive applications now, both in vSphere and in Horizon. This is kind of a cool slide because I was tooting the horns of VMware View back in the day, and it really there wasn't a great story around return on investment. We had a great story around return on investment with vSphere, but with View it was a little bit of a longer cycle, right? So with the new release, just based on some of the management tools and features that are built into it now, we've gotten that ROI down, both in dollar and in time. So again, just to kind of summarize the IT outcomes, right? So, I was kind of product intensive here, but I did want to go over each one of these before I finish. So the first one being data center virtualization and standardization. The IT outcome being significant reduction in CapEx. And here's where, in those stages or phases of virtualization, where each of the VMware products fits in. So you have compute virtualization, that would be vSphere obviously, but also the vSphere management piece, network and software-defined storage, I mentioned NSX and vSAN, and then a hybrid cloud with vCloud Air, which I mentioned, and the vRealize suite, which I touched on briefly, but it's a plug-in to both the on-prem cloud as well as the public cloud offering. So streamline automated data center operations. And these may or may not be problems that you guys are facing today in your vSphere environments, but performance and capacity management being a huge one. And again, vSphere with operations management, or down there calling it vRealize operations management, is the great solution for you guys. Do any of you guys have issues or stumble sometimes managing your virtual infrastructure? Or not really? vCenter's good enough? And then the physical infrastructure health management. Another thing that I don't mention in this presentation is a lot of the new release products do integrate with physical environments. So I know in the past it was you had to be kind of all in with VMware. VMware realizes that some applications you're just never going to virtualize. So there's tools within the new products, as well as you guys know, third-party companies all the time making stuff to integrate those two. And application health management, going back to that story with vSphere with operations management. VMware claims 56% in reduction in OpEx. I've seen it that high, but I've also seen it usually on average around 20-30%. So something to think about again. I'd love to show you guys a demo if anybody's interested, or go over it more with you. So improved security, and really this slide is around NSX, which I didn't speak much about today, but NSX, in addition to just virtualizing the network, also has built-in firewall and load balancing capability. So when you if you were looking to make that move to NSX, it's not just a virtual network product. It does address all of these security issues as well. And for the customers that are kind of like open to making that type of investment into NSX, it's usually around the security piece and not the fact that you can virtualize your whole network. Again, high availability and resilient infrastructure. Again, it keeps coming up here, but really for all of these, we're talking about vSphere with operations management and the vRealize automation piece. As I mentioned, for you guys who are vSphere customers, which is the majority of you, sometimes it might be hard to get an additional investment from your company to get additional VMware, especially if everything's working. But these are some of the products that really fit nicely and do actually save both physical resources as well as time and effort. And then the app infrastructure and delivery. This would be Horizon as well as the vCloud Suite, vCloud Air. For you guys to mention that you're looking at kind of a hybrid solution, this is that improved service delivery time outcome. Again, it sounds like, or just from the nods that I'm getting, that you guys have your VMware infrastructure is pretty well managed, but there are additional products out there from a software-defined data center perspective that could make it a little bit easier for you. And that is it. 30 minutes. Maybe 15 minutes back. You guys have any questions?
Well, I kind of have one question, and I'm sure this has probably came up from other people here in the past or whatever, but why VMware over Hyper-V? I mean, my company's actually looking for virtualizing some of our servers. Probably nothing on a large scale, but I'm just kind of wondering.
So there's a whole slide deck that VMware built around that.
Yeah.
And Hyper-V's got the other one, which they have all the green check boxes, and we have all the red X's. But the main thing that I always talk about is just the fact that it sits on top of the Microsoft operating system. So VMware's hypervisor installs bare metal, so you're not prone to anything that the native OS is going to do. So there was I think it was a couple months ago where Microsoft had a huge patch that had to be done. If you were on Hyper-V, you had to shut down your whole virtual infrastructure while that patch happened.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
That's the only thing that I think I could go on and on for days about the differences, but I think that's the only one that really hits home.
That's a big one. Not only that, you can also lock it down. You turn off the SSH and all that other stuff, so you literally can't get at the base OS at all.
So you're saying security-wise, that's a lot better?
Oh yeah. You can render it so there's virtually no attack surface to hit.
I'll just sit back and let you.
Any other questions, guys?